This is Tuesday Talks. Welcome. My guest this week is Cheryl Zetterholm. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello.
Cheryl is one of the outstanding violinists that play in the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra, and I'm delighted to take some time today to chat with Cheryl and for both you and I to get to know her a little bit better. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And I know that you began playing violin at a very young age and in probably grade school, elementary school?
4th grade. Someone came around demonstrating instruments and I liked the violin. So I came home and said I wanted to play the violin and my parents said, okay. It worked out well.
And they are musicians or
No.
They're not?
My father was a blue-collar worker at Chrysler, and my mother was a domestic goddess. She kept the house perfect, home-cooked meals, dessert perfect. So she was the mom that was always there.
And that is definitely a full-time job, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And so you continued playing violin through elementary school and through high school.
Yes, I played all along, and starting in junior high, I had auditioned, and then I got to play in the St. Clair Shores Symphony starting in, I think it was 8th grade. So I played in a community orchestra starting then.
Not a youth orchestra,
No,
but
with the adults.
Wow.
So somebody I later studied with for a couple of years, he was the concert master, Ken Miller. And then I also played Warren Symphony.
Okay, yeah,
when I was
familiar with them.
When I was in high school, a couple years. So.
And you also expanded a little bit in high school, and you were a percussionist.
Yes, I was. I played percussion from 9th grade on. My teacher liked me to play the timpani because I could actually tune them. And all the mallet instrument, all the xylophone, because I could read music where most of the guys couldn't.
Sure.
But it was very fun. That's where I learned how to play blackjack.
So you were balancing marching band and percussion with classical music and your violin and your community orchestras and things. That had to be fun.
Orchestras. I was in the Michigan Youth Orchestra, so I drove to Ann Arbor every Saturday.
And you went to high school in St. Clair Shores.
Yes, I went to Lakeview High School.
They had a wonderful orchestra.
Very, very good, high quality orchestra program, and they had a very good band program.
Interesting. So your violin, again, as you're preparing for your lifetime career as a professional musician, your violin took you to Michigan State for your undergrad degree. And how did you end up there?
I was studying with Morris Hochberg at Wayne State, and fabulous teacher. He wanted me to go to Wayne State to get my music degree, and my parents said, nope, we don't want you going to school in Detroit. So he called Dr. Verder at Michigan State, set up my audition right then and there, and the rest is history. So I went to Michigan State for 4 years, and I studied with Walter, and then I studied with the Juilliard String Quartet. They were there every term because they were in residence, and that was fabulous.
I had some old vinyls from the Juilliard String Quartet, and they were just so fabulous. I loved listening to them. Then you continued with yet more study out east with a master's degree in violin performance.
Yes, I went to New England Conservatory of Music in Boston. My husband and I got married in June, and our honeymoon was moving out to Boston, and we were in Boston for 2 years. And while I was in Boston, during grad school, I went and I took some auditions, and I got in the Rhode Island Philharmonic, so I was playing in a professional orchestra then, and then I played a bunch of the community orchestras, any job that came up. And I taught 30 private students going to their homes. I put crazy miles on my car.
Wow.
And I don't know how we did it, but I did it. amazing.
I know, we look back sometimes at some of the things that we've done, and we do, we say, how did we do that?
In fact, one of the houses we lived in there, was very funny. It was a cute little A-frame house on a lake.
Oh my goodness.
And the deck was literally in the lake, so we could fish off the deck and stuff. It was really cool. But in the winter, it didn't get above 30 degrees inside, so we were standing on ice, and we had cats and dogs and electric blankets,
Sure.
so we did everything in the bedroom. We were newlyweds, it didn't matter. But,
Exactly.
I don't know how we did that.
Exactly. Well, I know you ultimately ended up in Florida,
Yes.
playing professionally with an orchestra in Florida. So how did that work? I think you maybe were doing a few auditions, or?
Yes, so as I was nearing graduation time at NEC, I looked in the International Musician and sent my resume to every orchestra that had an opening. And I had a stack of music about that tall I had to learn, and I had 7 auditions set up for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Many of them one day, and
All over the
after
country.
All over the country,
my
some in
goodness.
Canada. My husband laughed because one was in Wyoming, so he said, well, I'm a computer programmer, but hey, I can go rope some doggies. But,
Yeah.
so Orlando was my second audition with the Florida Symphony, and I got that, so I was pretty excited. But then I still went and I did another audition in Portland, Oregon. I'd never been out east, it was pretty beautiful. But after that, I was just so fried, and I just wanted to get home. I said, I just wanted to know I could actually get a job in music.
Right.
And so he said, no, take it.
And you did.
So I took it.
You did.
I didn't think people really lived in Orlando, they just visit, but they do.
People live in Orlando, they just don't visit Disney World, is that right? Okay.
Oh, we don't, we did, we buy the seasons.
Right,
By the season pass,
right,
that was good.
right. Well, you spent a fair number of years down there.
Yes, I got to play for Universal grand opening, so we got to meet all of Universal Studios' big movie stars.
Wow.
We were playing a concert, and the concert got rained out, so we were in the room next to the press room,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a door connecting them, so I had my camera, so 3 of us snuck in there pretending we were press. I got our pictures taken with a lot of the movie stars. It was pretty cool. I was starstruck.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. I love it. Well, ultimately, you ended up back home
Yes, we had 2 kids.
in Michigan.
Want to be near family.
Yeah.
Something,
Okay.
we wanted the kids to know their grandparents. Tim and I were both the babies of the family. Our parents were getting up there, and we
Sure.
wanted our kids to know their grandparents. And my brothers and sister, my sister and brother were still in Michigan, and Tim had some family still in Michigan
Sure.
along with his parents. So it was important to be near family at the time.
And it was a good move back, wasn't it?
It was.
Resettled, and then lo and behold, you are starting to do all kinds of gigs with DTE, Fisher, Fox, Michigan Opera Theater, and so now you're kind of going from pretty much strictly classical to maybe something you could call more pops or something.
Yes.
Broadway.
Yes, growing up, I loved musicals. And so I started out playing in the Birmingham Bloomfield Symphony in Detroit. That was the first gig I got there. And
Felix Resnick.
yes, he was fabulous. And so we ended up, I got a job playing at Pine Knob after that. I was playing some gig, somebody hired me
Sure.
through that. And I was sitting next to this woman who I knew did theater, and I said, well, if there's ever an opening, I'd love to play at the Fox or the Fisher. And she said, well, I don't do the hiring or anything, but then turned out they needed somebody. She gave my name, and the rest is history. So I was able to play Phantom, Les Mis, 20-some weeks in a row, 8 shows a week. So for my 40th birthday, I told my husband, I want to see Phantom. I've never seen it.
Not from
I
the
played-
pit. Yeah.
Right. I played it for 40, 50 weeks of my life, I've never seen it. So we went to Toronto and had fabulous seats. And that was wonderful.
That's special. Could you even watch it, or were you listening?
No, we're under the stage. You know,
No, but I mean, when you went to Toronto
Oh.
to see it, could you even enjoy watching it, or were you listening to all the music?
Oh, I loved it. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. I never knew it. Oh my gosh, this is so
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, sometimes you'd be so zeroed into the music part of it because that's what you did for all those weeks.
Right.
But,
No, of course I always
Yeah.
hear it in music, but I
Sure.
just enjoyed the whole production.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
The first big show I did there was actually at Tiger Stadium. They were hiring somebody to play for Rod Stewart. So we played for 40-some thousand people, and the noise is
amazing.
unbelievable. They had plexiglass in front of us, and between the noise and the bras being thrown on stage, it was a hoot. That was my first big experience in Detroit.
Well, it's amazing you can just sit still for a Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra concert, Cheryl.
I love it. I love chamber music, and I think
know.
Libor is fabulous. I just love playing. He's such a fine musician.
He
Such a nice,
is.
just a nice.
He is.
man.
So then how did you get from downstate to up here then?
Oh, that's funny. My friend Traverse Symphony had been calling me to sub, and I kept thinking,
Do I want to drive all
do
that
I
way?
drive all the way to play in which I thought it was like more of like a community orchestra.
Right, yeah.
I thought, then my friend Connie kept saying, oh, you need to go, the conductor's really good, you should try it. And then I found out my best friend from Florida was playing in the orchestra, so I decided to surprise her. So when I got the call, I said,
Yeah.
is Lori playing this? And they said, yes. So I did it, and I loved it. I love the conductor there, and then I started asking around what else is going on up here, and I found out about Great Lakes Chamber, and Linda Tolius gave them my name,
She's
and I was
wonderful.
able to start subbing, and then I love both orchestras up here. It's such a blessing. That's why we moved up here.
It is. It really is, isn't it? And when you think about having two such fine organizations, of course, we're more of a chamber orchestra, and Traverse Symphony Orchestra is quite a lot larger, but to have two such fine professional orchestras in an area like this is pretty amazing, isn't
It's
it?
very amazing.
Yeah.
We literally decided on here, we were supposed to move to Hawaii, and we ended up in northern Michigan. We like this better.
Okay. Oh,
Seriously.
it is. And now you have always maintained a private studio too,
Yes.
where you teach violin, and how many students?
I also teach viola.
Yeah. Okay.
I started teaching private lessons in 8th grade. My teacher gave me, she said, so I have a viola student. You know how to teach viola? I'm thinking, sure. Then I went back after the first lesson. I said, he didn't know a single note. And she said, you know the viola clef, right? I said, oh, what's that? That was the first. I learned it real quick.
Yes, it is a different staff.
Yes.
Yes.
So now I'm teaching a lot of Detroit students online, and I have actually 2 kids on my street that study with me, and I have an adult in Petoskey that studies with me, and so it's nice. It's a nice blend.
Now you have been doing online teaching even prior to COVID, have you?
Yes, it was. I did it the summer before because I thought, I'm not driving back and forth every week. It was killing me. It's just too much. So I told my students, I said, I'm teaching this summer, but you either have to drive up north to see me, or we're going to try it online. And for 90% of it worked fine.
Mhm.
And then, so COVID hit, it's like, oh, we just did this last summer.
You're-
It's not a big deal.
Doing what you've been doing.
Yes.
Interesting. And I'm sure there's some adaptations that you've made for online teaching as opposed to, being right there and.
It's more challenging, and the sound is very challenging because it's just not the same
The
as hearing in
intonation,
person.
sure.
And the tone quality, like sometimes the internet on their end isn't very good, or on my end, or it freezes, and all of a sudden it'll go fast. So I'll be hearing.
I didn't do that.
And I'd start laughing. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you.
Right, exactly. Well, it is is interesting, and it's such a relationship between a student and a teacher.
Oh, I love
That
my kids.
when you find the teacher that really you speak the same language and you're really able to grow and learn, you can make those adaptations for online, or you get together once a month or once every other month, or there are things that you can do to really work it out.
Right, and I've been very blessed up here. Cheryl Stats is a wonderful friend of mine now. She started out as my violin student. She's
That's
a
right.
retired woman that plays piano fabulously. She's a
Fabulous.
professional pianist and
Yes.
teacher and educator,
Yes.
and she wanted to play violin, so she studied with a couple other people before she moved to Michigan, and then Chaz gave her my phone number, and we've been working together ever since. And during the pandemic, I said, oh my gosh, there's such a gap. I just feel so sad without having anything. I said, we need to play a recital. And she said, oh, that sounds like a great idea. So
Yes, and you are.
we had our first recital last week in Elk Rapids. We had a small but enthusiastic crowd, and we're using this as an opportunity to raise money for the local food pantries. So
Oh,
all the
that's
money we
nice.
raised went to the Elk Rapids pantry, and this one, we're playing another recital on the 22nd at 3 p.m. at Harbor Springs.
First Presbyterian
First
Church, Harbor
Presbyterian.
Springs. Yes.
So we're going to use the donations there for the local food pantry
Harbor
here. It
Springs.
says
Oh, Manna.
Manna.
Yeah,
Yes,
Manna
we're
Food Pantry.
so
Yeah.
we're gonna
yeah.
give those donations to
Well,
Manna.
this bears repeating to all of you out there that Cheryl Stats and Cheryl Zetterholm are doing a recital Sunday the 22nd, is it? Yes, at 3 p.m. at First Presbyterian Church, Harbor Springs. And Cheryl, if many of you might remember Cheryl Stats, she did a program on our Sunday series last year and played those beautiful Chopin preludes, and it was an unbelievable performance that we all enjoyed so much. So the two of you together are just going to be dynamite. So
We're having fun. It's a really nice variety of music too. Anything from Mendelssohn, Bach, Schubert, Mendelssohn.
right.
Then we're doing Monty. She's doing Joplin.
Yeah, she
some
does.
very fun pieces
Really
and
fun.
some beautiful things.
And it has just fed your soul, hasn't it? As a
Absolutely.
musician, you've just not been fed.
That's right. There's been a big gap. 'Cause my husband, he retired. We're here to retire, and he said, "When are you retiring?" I said, "When they pry the violin out of my cold dead hands." So I have no plans to ever retire. So
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And often as a musician, it's not something you do, Cheryl, is
that's
it?
who you
It's
are.
who you are.
Absolutely.
It's who you are.
Yeah.
And so that will be always a part of you. And well, we're glad for that. And I am so glad that you were able to join us. And I don't know if you have any final thoughts you would like to share with me and our wonderful audience.
No, not really. Just thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to hopefully doing something with the orchestra soon.
And we will, and we're looking forward to announcing the restart of in-person performances, and we're hoping that we can get some Sunday series concerts going January, February, March, and maybe a main stage concert in April. And we're working hard to put all of these things together again, always thinking of the health and safety of our staff, our musicians, and of course you, our very, very wonderful, dedicated audience members. And I want to thank you so much for all the support that you have shown the orchestra during this time and always, but this time in particular, your support is needed and is very much appreciated. So once again, I want to thank you for joining us this week, and have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week.